First of all, let me congratulate and thank the Permanent Mission of Jordan for its leadership and the rest of the panelists here with us, and also UNITAR for organizing this meeting, the second meeting we've had on this issue, on perspectives of faith, peace building, and development. I would like to refer to the United Nations work on this issue, fundamentally from my own experience. As we build in the United Nations, we build by small blocks, which take sometimes a very long time. But Resolution 57.6 of 4th of November of 2002, the promotion of a culture of peace and nonviolence, Resolution 58.128 of 19th of December of 2003 on the promotion of religious and cultural understanding, harmony and cooperation, Resolution 6014 of 10th of November of 2009 on the Alliance for Civilization were the antecedents for Resolution A65. I had the enormous pleasure of voting favorably for those resolutions in New York, so I am somewhat of a follower in the initiative that Jordan and many other countries have had on looking into the issue of the imperative for dialogue amongst different faiths and religions, in enhancing mutual understanding, harmony, and cooperation amongst people, but building the bridges for peace, tolerance, and mutual understanding. We live in an ever-changing world scenario, and we must adapt to these changes in world society. We have had and will have more challenges to peace, development, human rights, and the principles that brought this organization together. For centuries, and humanity has not been able to lessen the promoters of violence. We must change our attitudes, our ways of thinking, our customs, and in many ways our traditions, to be more understanding, tolerant, and become friends of diversities. While in these ample halls of the United Nations we speak of our peoples, we must also refer to ourselves. If one is not the one that changes, if one is not the one that looks at himself in the mirror and sees the necessity to not discriminate, not segregate, not misunderstand, it is very difficult for one to say that others must do so. The change from within must begin with our families, with our children, to be more understanding, tolerant, and become friends of diversity. We must remember that the change is both mine and they. We must walk the path of reconciliation, forgiveness of the past, and hope for the future. Difficult things to ask. More challenges than we really need. We must look at peace not as a goal to be obtained, but as a path to be followed every day. Constancy, persistence. In the way Heraclitus formulated, and Heraclitus, a Greek philosopher, formulated that we live in a world of constant change. It is like standing in a stream where your water changes constantly. No moment is the same. Therefore, what we live in the world must lead us to obtain standards of livability that make us live in peace, foster friendship, foster relationships that lead to peace. Why is it so important in these moments of humanity's history that we find that violence is being used as a means to pit one religion against the other, one fraction against its brother, and one man against his belief in peace? Can we look to the future with confidence? Can our children and our families look at the world we live in with confidence? That what we have done is trying to have all our efforts surpass that violence. We have lived in my lifetime in a world at war and the possibility of nuclear war, in bipolarity, in the separation and integration of states. We have seen geography change. We have, besides war, learned a new vocabulary of violence. Violence to migrants, violence to refugees, the use of weapons ever more sophisticated by technology, the use of unlimited resources for weaponry and destruction, the increase in racism, the increase in segregation, the alarming increase in Islamophobia, terrorism, drones and autonomous weapons, collateral damage, women and children fleeing, drowning in the Mediterranean and being segregated and limited in access to others. Fences and walls built on the basis of fear, fanaticism from many sources. These and other terms have become very familiar to us today. I would like to repeat a few of what Christ said on the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the Son of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We must change our narrative from one of shame to one of hope for a new and peaceful future. Dialogue amongst all, independent of religious beliefs, may create an ambience of peace without which development is impossible. Human development, the fighting of poverty, decent work, education, health, and peace, is impossible without that peace. Fear breeds violence. Ignorance of others brings violence. Ideologies, especially fanatical ideologies, sponsor rivalries. Extreme nationalisms have generated hate. In many cases, that is one of the major causes of these confrontations. Racism is the outcome of a misconceived notion of superiority. We must try to have peace, to build bridges and not walls, to extend our hands to all, rather than to raise our fists and violence to resolve our difference. The United Nations is the forum in which we can discuss these things, in which we can allocate our best efforts to have resolutions. My preoccupations is that many times these resolutions do not get to the ground. And on the ground, we find a different reality in where those resolutions have practically no effect. We must get the state parties involved in these discussions to be effective in the application of what they agree upon in these halls and what they do on the ground. Thank you very much.